The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
More groping, more threats, plus an assortment of celebrities, including Lisa Marie Presley and Macaulay Culkin. The carnival just plays on. Hello, I'm James Curtis, and welcome to E's coverage of the Michael Jackson trial. Michael Jackson and his mother entered the courthouse to face yet another day of lurid testimony and sensational testimony by former Neverland employees. Under questioning by Assistant District Attorney Ron Zone and a housekeeper, the second of two housekeepers that we've heard from in this trial, who once worked for the King of Pop, testifies. She takes us back to the alleged victim of the 1993 settlement. Here's what the jurors heard according to the courtroom transcripts.
I kind of looked down from the stairs up there a little, and I saw Mr. Jackson with Jordy, and they were changing their clothes. Like I figured they were at the water fort. And I looked down and I saw Mr. Jackson kissing on Jordy.
What part?
His cheek, and then his mouth, and his hand was on his crotch.
What was Jordy wearing at the time?
He had pants on.
How long did that last?
When I saw that, I was quiet. And I can't even say how long that lasted.
What did you do?
I was kind of shocked, flushed, and I stood quiet where I was at.
You didn't say anything?
I didn't say nothing.
For you to go and leave that room where the loft is, you would have to walk down the stairs, would you not?
Yes.
Would you have had to walk past them?
Yes.
All right. What did you do?
I stayed up there very quietly. I didn't say anything. I stood very quietly, and I waited for them to leave the room.
And did they leave the room?
Yes.
Next, why did the former housekeeper fear for her life? Now, a program note here. You'll hear the name Norma Stackos. Miss Stackos was one of Michael Jackson's personal secretaries, and Bill Bray was one of Jackson's security chiefs.
During the course of that deposition, were you asked if you observed any behavior by Michael Jackson directed toward Jordy or anybody else that you thought was inappropriate or any form of sexual behavior?
Yes.
How did you answer that question?
I didn't tell the truth.
What did you say?
I said I didn't see anything.
All right. Why did you say that in this deposition?
Because when I had taken over the job for Mr. Jackson's room, Mr. Jackson had threatened me.
What did he say to you?
He had told me, you know, Adrian, if you ever say or you do something that I don't like, all I have to do is tell Bill Bray or Norma Stackos, and they will take care of you. But it wouldn't come from me.
Were you concerned about that statement?
I was very concerned with that.
Well, it's Monday, folks, and the week of last week ended with a bang. It sort of ended as it started. Howard, you've been gone, doggone it. Don't ever do that again.
Boy.
You get to start today. What do you think of this?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with lying when you want to and saying that you're telling the truth at some other point. Look, this lady admitted she lied under oath. She was one of the plaintiffs in the case 10 years ago. The jury found her testimony not believable. No reason why we should find it any more believable today.
Well, but go ahead.
And you pooed me when I said this last week. When
Don't ever do that again.
Don't ever do that again. Yes. The jurors have to assess the credibility of these witnesses. And I know that you weren't with me when I said this, but they know Michael Jackson to a certain extent, and they have to ask themselves, does this comport with who they think he is? Threatening, you know, if you do this, I'm going to tell somebody, I'm going to get you. I don't think it does, and it goes to her credibility.
Well, when you have to get to the prosecution side of this, the prosecution side of this is clear. Maybe you can say one person lied under oath at a deposition and now they're telling the truth. Or maybe the defense can say, well, you can't believe them. The prosecution says, look, we have 9 witnesses. 9, not 1 or 2. I understand that we only have one of the alleged victims who's come in to testify, and that's young Jason. But what happens is that somewhere where there's smoke, there's fire.
Exactly. Isn't that really the point, though, folks? Come on now. There's so many people telling the exact same lie. Come on.
There's still a common denominator, though, and it's money and it's tabloids. That common denominator still exists, and if Mesereau can make the point that that's what this is all about, well, then it would make sense that all of these people would come forward. They have a motivation.
Really tough sell.
There's so many of them, though. Moving on, now With the former housekeeper, as with many of the earlier witnesses, the entire atmosphere changes, saw in Chapman Holly, under cross-examination by defense attorney Tom Mesereau.
You certainly must have discussed with your attorney during that 6-month trial how much money you were trying to get for yourself from Mr. Jackson, right?
Honestly, I don't believe anybody knew how much money anybody would be getting out of a trial.
But how much did you want?
I really didn't want anything. I just wanted justice for what I had gone through.
You didn't want millions of dollars in that lawsuit?
I wanted justice. I didn't... Whatever, I wanted justice.
But your idea of justice was millions of bucks, right?
Well, that's not what I call justice.
You file a lawsuit, you go through approximately 8 days of depositions, all sorts of paperwork, and you're in trial for 6 months. You wanted millions, right?
Honestly, a simple sorry for what we did to you would have been great for me.
Did you ever write a letter to Mr. Jackson saying, Mr. Jackson, I don't want to sue you, just tell me you're sorry?
No, I did not.
Ever call Mr. Jackson and say, Mr. Jackson, I don't really want to sue you, just say you're sorry?
I didn't have a number to contact Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, but you used to work there. Next, Neverland collides with Graceland.
Do you remember trying to sell information about Mr. Jackson's relationship with Miss Presley?
There could have been something of that. Possibly, yes.
You say possibly yes?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were actually trying to get money from tabloids in return for your giving them personal information about Mr. Jackson's relationship with Miss Presley, right?
We were trying to get money to help with our lawsuit to fight Mr. Jackson.
Do you recall trying to sell what you called Mr. Jackson's sex secrets? Do you remember that?
I know something was written about that, but I know sometimes tabloids write other stuff that they like to put in, so I don't know.
You were quoted in an issue of Star magazine titled, 5 of his closest servants tell all, kinky sex secrets of Michael and Lisa Marie's bedroom, right?
I don't believe I said that.
Have you seen that article before?
I did during my deposition.
Was that the first time you'd ever seen this article?
Yes.
You are quoted in the article, correct?
I don't know. I could be. I don't know.
Well, folks, if you ever wondered where those sensational tabloid stories come from that appear in Star and other tabloids, we turn to the prosecution's star witness, or one of them.
This is too much. I have to say that why, in all of my years of practice, did I never have witnesses like these to cross-examine? I want to know why.
No, this is huge.
This is really a golden opportunity for Tom Mesereau, and I say, as I often do, he does this very well. And he just has the ability, because Tom is a huge guy, to be able to kind of look down at her in my mind's eye of Tom and just roll this stuff off. Look at the ammunition he has. I would love to have seen the jury doing this.
And how absurd that all she wants is justice.
She didn't have his phone number.
No money, and she didn't have his phone number.
She only worked there for, what, 3 or 4 years or something like that?
I think this is pathetic. And Ricky mentioned 9 witnesses, and where there's smoke, there's fire. So follow the bouncing ball. Smoke, fire, guilty. Doesn't really work that way. We require evidence. And there are 9 witnesses that, honestly, if I could just cross-examine these people for a living,
I grant
I'd
you
do
that,
very
Howard.
well.
But, as you said yourself weeks ago, this is a sexual assault trial of little kids. Does that conventional wisdom, smoke fire, but it's garbage smoke, equal garbage out?
I think it takes away
here?
from the government's case. I think it takes away from the credibility of the government's case. If there's a case here, let's see the evidence with legitimate witnesses that we feel comfortable with.
Spoken like a true lawyer as opposed to a true juror who gets emotionally involved with the image of what happened.
Yeah, who's making up all these stories? Can all these people be lying? That's got to be one of the things. We're going to hear that again and again when we return. How delivering French fries at 3 a.m. can destroy your appetite. Stay with us.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. Prosecutors press on, calling former Neverland chef Phillip LeMarque to the stand. And once again, a certain young movie star received some rather unwanted publicity. Here's what happened according to the courtroom transcripts.
Mr. LeMarque, at some time during your employment, Did you see something involving Mr. Jackson and one of these boys that upset you?
Yes.
Do you know the name of that boy?
Macaulay Culkin.
And how long had you worked at Neverland when this incident occurred?
Well, I'm not too sure there. I mean, 6, 7 months maybe.
Okay, where did this incident occur?
In the arcade.
What was the approximate time of it?
3 o'clock in the morning. 3 or 4 or something. 3:30 maybe.
What was it that brought you to the arcade at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning?
Well, I was called by security that Michael wanted some French fries.
Okay.
So...
Were you asleep at the time?
Yeah.
Was that uncommon for you to get a food order in the middle of the night?
It happened a few times, not too often.
Okay, was this a telephone call that you received?
Yeah. I mean, we had one of those remote control, phones.
Okay, intercom or...
Yeah, on the radio.
Radio.
Yeah, radio.
And your instruction was to...
Well, yeah, at the time there was always a code for Michael. At the time it was Silver Fox. So they said that Silver Fox wants some French fries.
This guy actually referred to himself as the Major Domo, which I guess, according to my sources, thank you, Ricky, means you're just in charge of everything. Next, the former Neverland chef drops a bombshell.
What did you see when you went to the arcade?
Michael was playing with Macaulay Culkin at one of the games, which was a thriller, the games.
Thriller?
Yeah. And he was holding the kid because the kid was small, couldn't reach the controls. So I guess he was holding with 2 hands. The kids were up so they could use the controls of the game.
And what did you see that upset you?
His left hand was inside the pants of the kid.
All right. I want you to tell the jury specifically how his hands were configured on the boy's body.
Well, his right hand was holding the kid, maybe mid-waist, and the left hand was down into the pants.
Okay. Now, what type of pants was Macaulay wearing?
I forgot what they were. They probably were shorts or something.
Were his hands, as far as you could tell, on the inside or the outside of the shorts?
They were inside.
Were they coming in the shorts from the top or from the bottom?
From the bottom.
Through one of the legs?
The bottom.
Which hand was it that he was touching the boy with?
The left hand.
When you saw this, what did you do?
I was shocked, and I almost dropped the French fries. And there was a game there, tip-top. I backed out.
Objection. Move to strike. Non-responsive.
Denied.
As far as the exact location of his hand, could you see where his hand was in the vicinity of Mr. Macaulay's person?
Well, it was in the, in the crotch area.
Sean Chapman-Holly, this is the theme, I think, repeated from the complaining witness's brother, Starr. That is, you see the hand, you're coming into the room, rather, and you walk up on this thing unexpectedly. Ring true?
Yes, if you believe it. And, of course, I don't believe it.
Of course.
Of course. And I said last week that I thought it was going to be important to the defense for Macaulay Culkin to come in and testify. And I'm second-guessing that now.
Really,
I'm not
why?
sure that it is. Because, you know what? Here are all of these people who have an axe to grind for one reason or another, or money to gain, or tabloid stories to sell. If these actual alleged victims don't come in, Mesereau can make much of that. Where are the people who this allegedly happened to,
That's
ladies
true,
and
that's
gentlemen
true,
of
but
the
Howard,
jury?
and I agree with that.
They're equally available.
Exactly, that's my point, Howard. If this person does not come in, Macaulay Culkin in this instance, for the prosecution, isn't the jury going to be looking at the defense going, hey, you should have called this guy if he was going to help you?
Well, I think the jurors are going to wonder about the balancing act. When you're holding the kid up to play the games and you have your right hand on his shoulder and his left hand on, it is an inherently incredible story. And then what did Michael Jackson do? Turn around and say, Mr. LeMarque, just put the French fries down here. I'll be right with you. He walks in and delivers the French fries when this is going on.
Yeah, but he walks in all fairness to this witness, and he'll get torn apart in just a second. But at this point, he's saying, look, I saw it, and I stopped.
Right.
I didn't intrude. He didn't know I was there, essentially.
Exactly right. And the difficulty I think you have is this about this particular story, which I don't think is the same as the other stories, is Howard's point is well taken. If you're trying to balance a kid who's working on a little game here, where your hand goes in those seconds may be an innocent act or it may not be. But again, it's the prosecution knowing that under this 1108 part of the evidence code, they can keep piling on. And somebody in that jury has got to say, wow, it had to have happened at some time.
And will somebody else in that jury say, all of this stuff happened and there were no other prosecutions? What the heck is going on? As the testimony continues, Assistant District Attorney Gordon Auchincloss asks the question that almost every previous witness has had to face.
After you left Neverland, or at any time during close in time to the period that you saw these events, this event you just described, did you ever report it to any authorities, the police?
No.
Why not?
Because nobody would have ever believed us.
And why do you say that?
Because Michael was on top of everything. And if we had come and said to the police, they would have said, what kind of proof do you have? So we couldn't, I mean, this wasn't possible. It would be impossible to give.
Did you ever consult an attorney or any other person that might have some background in the law as to what you should do?
Yes, and they told us the same thing.
At some time after this event occurred, were you ever approached by any tabloids?
Yes, many.
And did you ever sell this story to a tabloid?
We talked about it, and we even had some guy trying to sell the story for us. Some sleazy guy that tried to make a deal with the tabloid. But at the last minute, we never took in a penny from anyone because it was against our principles.
This sleazy guy that you're talking about, I'm not going to ask you to mention his name, but do you know if he ever profited from your story?
Yes, he did.
Why do you say that?
Because we had an interview with him and our lawyer, Arnold Kessler, and he taped the conversation while it was a private conversation of that lawyer.
Okay.
And he sold the story to the tabloid, and he made some money with that story.
Were you tempted yourself to sell your story to the tabloid?
Yes, we were tempted for the money for sure. Everybody would be tempted, but we never did.
You know, I go back and forth and back and forth. When I hear this kind of testimony, I think Michael Jackson's going to jail. When I hear the cross-examination that you're about to hear, I think the defense has really got a lot to work with here. On cross-examination, defense attorney Tom Mesereau points out, as he continually does, one little bitty problem with the story told by this witness.
You signed a statement in September of 1993 about what you had seen, right?
If I signed a statement, I forgot when was that, if I signed a statement.
Do you remember handwriting a statement about what you claimed you had seen
I don't remember that.
Mr. Jackson doing with Mr. Culkin? Remember saying, I could not distinguish what he was really doing with his hand, but you thought it was more than fondling?
I don't remember that at all.
Would it refresh your recollection if I just show you a copy of the statement? May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I guess it's correct.
Is that your handwriting?
Yeah.
Is that your signature?
Yeah.
The date is September 10th, 1993, correct?
Correct.
Do you remember saying you couldn't distinguish what he was really doing with his hand?
I don't recall that, but if it's written, that's...
It's what you wrote, isn't it?
I guess.
Well, is it your writing or not?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and you wrote those words, did you not?
I guess I did, but I don't recall.
Ricky Kleeman, there's an old saying, Grandma said it, and her grandma probably said it. One step forward, two steps back.
Exactly right. But of course, that's what a trial should be like. A trial should be like a tennis match or a ping pong ball. You go over here, the engine of cross-examination brings you over here. And this witness, you have a lot to work with. I mean, Tom Mesereau can go on, and I'm going to save some of my little ammunition
but, I mean,
for later.
Howard, I agree with that to a certain extent, but I think when you're in the prosecution's case, you should be thinking, this guy's guilty, and we're not there with this prosecution case.
Well, the prosecution's there, it's just that the evidence isn't there with him.
Oh, and I couldn't have said it better myself. He's so good. When we return, did the chef cook up something really steamy?
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. Under cross-examination, a former Neverland chef recalls a conversation he had with a go-between who wanted to sell the chef's story to the tabloids. Here's what the jurors heard according to the courtroom transcripts.
Did you have a discussion with Paul Baresi where you said, we don't want 100,000, we want 500,000? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do you remember having a discussion with Mr. Baresi where you learned the price would be higher if the story was Mr. Jackson's hand was in the clothes rather than outside?
That was his own made-up stories, not my story.
That statement was made in your discussion with Mr. Baresi, true?
I don't recall that, but I think he did it himself. That's what he said we could get if the hands went higher.
You know, at Johnny's service last week, we ran into Tom Mesereau. I had a chance to talk to him. I don't know if you did, actually.
I always talk to Tom Mesereau.
Walked up to him. I had never met the man, and we remarked to each other. He seemed in an exceedingly good and upbeat mood.
Totally upbeat. Totally
now I know why.
Like he's winning. And
I know why, because he was ready to rip these witnesses apart. He knew what was coming.
Yep,
well,
I think that's true.
He did know what was coming, and he is the kind of lawyer who believes in preparation. He was ready, and we can see how well he did.
Absolutely. You agree, Howard?
Well, I do agree. The thing that makes me nervous about this trial, I grew up in the criminal justice system, presumed innocent until proven guilty. The media has taken this for whatever reasons, and I guess because it's exciting and, you know, sex and children and all kinds of bad stuff.
Sure.
And that's the real uphill battle here. Even with witnesses like this, you have to be nervous.
It does really kind of raise that ire. But, Sean, the idea here, and what I'm hearing in these last couple of witnesses, is activity and conduct that's really contrasts starkly with the conduct we heard from the witness we all thought was pretty convincing, that is Jason. He talks of a de minimis, a tickling and a touching. These acts, and I'm not even going to go describe them, they're horrific, seem very adult in nature to me. Do you know what I mean?
I think I do know what you mean, but again, I think it goes to the credibility of these witnesses. And again, here's a person who's saying they were too principled to sell the story, and then the other person who said she just wanted justice. Yet neither of these people, again, go to the police, go to any of the authorities. They instead go to the tabloids, go to lawyers, try to get some money, and that goes to their lack of credibility.
All right, take it home, Ricky.
Well, there's a great piece of cross-examination that never got to be delivered because apparently this man says he has principles, but he may have been involved in a virtual porn site.
Ooh, yeah. Well, that's it for today. Don't you love it when we leave you hanging? Watch our exclusive trial coverage Monday through Friday, 7:30.